Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously profound concept we found in a recent deep dive on the Faith Forge channel. We're going to explore what actually happens when mere, everyday belief transforms into a daily surrendered action. And look, this isn't just about some abstract theory. We're talking about 7 distinct, absolutely life-altering shifts that fundamentally change how a person thinks, how they live, and how they navigate literally every single situation they encounter. So let's just jump right in and start with the massive question the source poses right out of the gate. What does putting God first actually look like in real life? It's a pretty common paradox these days, right? We hear people say they have this deep faith, but at the exact same time, they feel completely overwhelmed, chronically empty, and just stubborn stuck in life. So why is that? Well, the channel traces this back to a really critical difference. It's the difference between just stating what you believe intellectually and actually changing your daily decisions, your priorities, and how you handle the inevitable curveballs life throws at you. To get a handle on all this, we're going to use this quick agenda to break down these 7 shifts. Number 1, belief versus full surrender. Number 2, finding true inner peace. Number 3, fortifying identity and discipline. Number 4, navigating choices and relationships, and wrapping it all up with number 5, a complete perspective shift. All right, let's get into section 1, belief versus full surrender. Okay, so the crucial distinction the source makes here is the massive, truly massive gap between merely believing in God and actively putting Him first. Because let's face it, believing can be entirely passive. You can mentally agree with something and it never once alters your morning routine. But prioritizing God, that requires actively surrendering control, giving up control of your personal plans, your fluctuating emotions, and those deep-seated fears we all have. When you make that conscious choice to elevate surrender above your own immediate desires, that is the exact moment everything begins to shift. It's basically a fundamental move from sitting comfortably in the passenger seat to handing over the steering wheel completely, trusting the direction even when you literally cannot see the destination. Moving right along to section 2, finding true inner peace. So once you make that choice to surrender, your priorities become remarkably clear. Think about it. When you're the one constantly running the show, life feels incredibly crowded, doesn't it? Every goal, every expectation, every single responsibility is just screaming for your attention all at once. It leads to a life driven entirely by pressure and this relentless mental load. But the channel points out that by intentionally dedicating the very first part of your day, instead of just tossing in whatever scraps of time were left over, your priorities naturally start to organize themselves. The things that once felt so urgently stressful kind of lose their suffocating grip, and the things that actually matter rise right to the surface. You transition from feeling completely scattered and burned out to moving with profound, focused purpose. Now, what's really interesting is how the source tackles anxiety. Anxiety thrives on that illusion of control, that exhausting attempt to predict every possible problem before it happens. To defeat that, they provide this super practical 3-step daily framework. Step 1. Acknowledge what you genuinely cannot control. You've got to draw a hard line between your responsibilities and the universe's. Step 2. Bring those specific burdens to God consistently. And note, this isn't just some emergency ripcord you pull when a crisis hits. It's a daily practice. And step 3. Release it again and again. This is basically a mental muscle. When those anxious thoughts try to creep back in, and they will, you have to consciously let them go. Over time, the situations that used to totally paralyze you, they simply lose their power. That brings us to section 3, fortifying identity and discipline. Think about how fragile we actually are when our confidence rests heavily on what other people think, or how successful we appear on paper, or how we compare to the literal highlight reels of everyone around us. When those external factors inevitably shift, because they always do, our identity completely crumbles. But stabilizing your identity in an unchanging spiritual truth offers this quiet, unshakable confidence. When you prioritize this kind of foundation, you just stop chasing external approval. You begin to understand who you are way beyond mere performance. You're rooting yourself deeply in something that doesn't wildly fluctuate with the daily news cycle or, your social media metrics. But here's the catch. This new, stable identity doesn't just magically appear out of thin air. No way. It requires dedicated effort through spiritual discipline. The source makes it clear that it's not a one-time, highly emotional decision. It's a steadfast, daily commitment. Now, at first, you might find yourself being inconsistent or easily distracted by the noise of the day. That's normal. But as you keep intentionally dedicating that time, those core habits solidify. And what's really fascinating is how this discipline invariably spills over. it doesn't just stay neatly boxed up in your spiritual life. It bleeds directly into your work ethic, your daily mindset, and your everyday routines. You stop just talking about wanting to change and you actually start living it out. Which leads perfectly into section 4, navigating choices and relationships. So without a rock-solid foundation, our choices are usually driven by pure emotion or impatience, or, let's be real, the fear of missing out on what everyone else is doing. But simply pausing to ask, is this aligned with where God is leading me, completely short-circuits those impulsive reactions. You start seeking clear direction instead of chasing an immediate sugar rush of gratification. This intentional pause lets you care way less about instant flashy results and a whole lot more about long-term lasting impact. And honestly, that ultimately leads to far fewer regrets and a life walked in genuine wisdom. And this newfound wisdom, it actually acts as a super effective filter for your social circle. The explainer points out you'll likely see several dramatic shifts here. We're talking higher standards for who you let into your inner circle, way more patience for people's flaws, and a much greater willingness to just forgive instead of holding on to bitter grudges. But the most crucial part is that you develop incredibly sharp discernment. You start to easily spot which connections are genuinely building you up and which ones are just slowly draining your energy. Now, this process can definitely be uncomfortable. Some people might naturally distance themselves as you grow, but the key takeaway here is to trust the process. Allow what doesn't fit to be pruned away, and realize that the right relationships will thrive right alongside you. Finally, we hit section 5, a complete perspective shift. Before making this fundamental shift, it is so easy to view the world through a limited, highly reactive lens. You know the feeling, where problems are just unfair setbacks and pain feels entirely pointless. You might find yourself constantly asking, why is this happening to me? And comfortably playing the victim in your own story. But check out this massive perspective shift from the source. Instead of playing the victim, what if you asked, what is God doing through this? Wow, you start actively looking for the meaning behind the pain. You shift completely from a victim mindset to a growth mindset, trusting that even in the darkest, most difficult seasons, there's a distinct, overarching purpose at play. It honestly all boils down to this one profound idea from the channel. You're not just going through life, you're growing through it. When your perspective expands to this degree, you realize that absolutely nothing is wasted. The frustrating delays, the massive challenges, the deep heartbreaks, they aren't just random punishments. They're actively shaping you into something far stronger and way more resilient. Does life suddenly become perfect or trouble-free? No, of course not. But it does become aligned. You could finally see clear purpose where you used to only see chaotic problems. So the core philosophy anchoring this entire explainer is this really famous verse from Matthew. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. A lot of times, especially in our hyper-competitive culture, people worry that surrendering their own relentless pursuit of success means they're going to inevitably fall behind everyone else. But this verse highlights the exact opposite reality. Prioritizing this deep spiritual foundation means you aren't falling behind at all. Actually, you're being positioned exactly where you need to be, at the exact right time, equipped with the exact right tools to handle whatever comes next. As we wrap up this explainer today, we really want to leave you with a final, provocative question to chew on. Take an honest look at your own life right now. Your lingering anxieties, your daily decisions, your closest relationships. Are you exhausting yourself by white-knuckling the steering wheel, just holding on to the illusion of control? Or are you ready to embrace the kind of profound surrender that leads to true clarity and unshakable purpose? The 7 life-changing shifts we've explored today really do offer a fascinating roadmap for anyone willing to ask themselves that very question. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep seeking clarity.